Well, hello. Welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm Chip,
And I'm CJ.
and it is Monday in the Red, and we got a lot to talk about. I guess the Herald News from Transparent Paulie, Mister. I'm transparent and I'm honest. He's ignoring the law, which means he's not honest, and he's not. He's never been transparent, and now, in spite of the fact that he's in again, they don't want anybody to know the real details, so we can find out everybody who's involved in this fiasco.
And remember, okay, and we got this from the original Herald News article when Seth Akins said that people automatically, assume, and this isn't a quote, I'm paraphrasing, people automatically assume when you don't want to give out the information that you have something to hide. Well, then why aren't you giving the information out, Seth? Why aren't you giving the information out, Paul? It seems like you have something to hide to me. Because I'm going to tell you now, once all those documents come out, I'm sending them to the Attorney General. I'm sending them to the Inspector General. I don't care. And I hope they take you out in handcuffs, all of you. This is ridiculous.
You know something? Seth Akins is the master of understatement. People assume you're hiding something if you don't give them the information. Well, that's a pretty safe assumption. Because if there was nothing to hide, they would give you the information. If everything was on the up and up, they don't want, number one, they don't want to know, they don't want us to know some of the crimes that were committed. Because allegedly, we have heard, I know both of us have got a lot of information on this from people and fairly reliable sources, that there was some really serious criminal activity done. There was a lot of taxpayer money misappropriated, and allegedly there was some other politicians involved in this getting free services. Wow, what a surprise. They get preferential treatment. Didn't Kathy Ann Viveras have a preferential tax rate on her house? Yeah, that's right. I remember that. But remember, we're not supposed to have recalls or anything like that. We're not supposed to hold our government accountable. It's too expensive. I got to get back to that for one quick, because I was digging through my stuff. And I talked about, they said it was too expensive to do our recalls because $60,000. But okay, here we go, everybody. Can you read that? $670,000 for a tourism study. That's okay. 10 times the amount of allowing the people who, by the way, for you pinheads who have never read the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, part of the first Articles 4 and 5. Article 4 clearly states that the people are the government. We're the government. And Article 5 clearly states that you are answerable to us at all times, which segues me back to this. They're answerable to us. Seth Akins is supposed to be a lawyer, but they're paying another law firm on top of paying Akins and Runaway Rumsey. They're paying another outside law firm to stop the people of this city from knowing all the facts on this issue, just like they did with Malone, just like they do with everything. This is outrageous. Outrageous. We're paying that law firm to not be transparent, to block the transparency. This is a gross violation of their sworn oath to be our representatives and be answerable to us and our substitutes and agents. But they don't care. Paul Coogan has never given a damn about what the law says unless it benefits him. Oh, it's like Biden. Oh, don't worry about what Hunter did. DOJ's not going to prosecute him. They're not going to prosecute Hillary. They're just going to go after people they don't like. But you know that I think when this thing is finally uncovered, we're going to see a lot of things that they don't want us to see. That's the reason they don't want to tell us. It's over. You guys settled it. Why don't you show us? You know, as they said in Jerry Maguire, yeah, show us the money. Show us the money. Back to you, CJ.
Yeah, what money? We're broke.
Yeah, because we're paying for
Paul
their
pissed it
lawyers.
away. Paul pissed it away. So did John Perry. So we're broke. And remember, we paid John Perry $65,000 to go away. Go away. Go away. We don't want to see you. Go away. Here's $65,000. Go away. And according to the Herald News, the city has not released the full separation agreement. They've only released bits and pieces because they don't want anything to come out. They don't want people to know, because God forbid the public know what's going on the 6th floor. God forbid the people know how corrupt our administration may or may not be. God forbid we find out how corrupt DCM is or may not be. How corrupt our elected politicians may be. God forbid we find out that. This is why we need to have, I'm going to swear. Now I'm going to swear. I'm going to really swear here. We need a forensic audit. I actually swore there. Forensic audit. Had the city been auditing DCM, and had they been ordering the snow removal budget, City Council, this is you, City Council, had you been auditing that as it was occurring, and you had been reviewing the billing sheets, you may have caught this. You may have caught this. But again, the City Council wants nothing to do with accountability. Look at the budget that they passed June. Okay? They didn't even review the revenue streams. They just reviewed expenditures. How do we know what the deficit's gonna be? We won't know until June of this year, July. How are we gonna know what the deficit's gonna be? Where's that deficit money gonna come? Because we always see it in July where money gets moved around in July to pay off bills from the previous year, because they only have a certain amount of time to do that in. Okay? But the thing that gets me is, how could DOR, the Department of Revenue, Division of Local Services, actually turn around and approve a budget where the city did not review the revenue streams? This tells you how high up corruption can and does run. We need to have a clear, concise level of transparency. No bullshit.
Well, look, let me tell you something. DOR doesn't care. They're going to turn it right back. If you blame DOR, they're going to turn it right back and say, well, by statute, the city council approved that budget, and they were supposed to make sure that this budget was funded, especially collective bargaining agreements under Chapter 150E, Section 7, says everything has to be funded, not with potential things. But let me go back into my memory banks, and unfortunately for them, I do have a very good memory. Paul keeps trying to say, well, I inherited this. Well, you didn't do anything for 3 years. Shouldn't we have known there was something amiss in DCM when during the Jaisel trial, under cross-examination, didn't someone say they were paid by DCM for something they didn't do in order to pay another bill that they had?
Yep.
Didn't an excavator say that in court?
Yep. Oh, and by the way, that excavator is still doing business with the city of Fall River, because I saw them working on a contract. And the mayor said that JDM, according to the Herald News, JDM Trucking no longer does business with the city. But Corey Excavating does. Because as a matter of fact, Corey Excavating was the one that took down the buildings. Remember when they had those buildings they took down? that was paid for with CDA money, that was Corey excavating. So
Well,
again, Mr. Mayor, where is your transparency?
well, you can't blame Corey Excavating
No, you
because
can't blame them.
they owed the guy the money. You
Right.
think he gives two shits how they pay him? They want to fudge the books. He got paid. He doesn't care how he got paid. They owed him the money. Who violated the law? The city of Fall River. Just as, again, my memory bank is in full operation, even though I got a head cold, as you can see. Just as, because, they say, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Well, we've been broke a long time, and they never fix it because it's broke in their benefit. They ignore everything. Don't you remember sitting in a city council meeting with me, CJ, when there was a man up there who fraudulently filled out overtime sheets, charged them to a completely different department than where the overtime he was paying occurred?
I remember
and remember
I remember that
what
clearly.
the council did? Absolutely nothing. When he admitted he committed fraud. Did he get fired? No. Did he got a promotion and a pay raise? He didn't get fired. And then when he walked back, he uttered those famous words that shall live in infamy. When Terry Sullivan leaned over to him and said, "Don't worry about it. Keep your mouth shut. Keep your head down. In another month, they'll be on to something else." You think that might have been indicated that we need somebody to watch these people? We need to be I'm going to use a expletive. You think we need a forensic audit of all these departments and their expenditures? I'll say it again. The big F word. Forensic. That's what we need. This city is corrupt, and it's your taxpayer money they are pissing down the hole. All the jobs he's created with opera money, now he's going to be looking for 2.5 override. We're going to get all kinds of fees because these people never stop spending money and they never stop violating the law. You think that guy should have been fired? Absolutely. You try to forge a paycheck. You try to forge a check. Go to the bank, forge a check, and see if they don't come after you. That's what he did. He filled out a fraudulent overtime form and the city cut a fraudulent check. What happened? Same thing that's happened to Hunter. Nothing yet. Nothing probably ever will. Just like Hillary. She wasn't the president of the United States, and she had thousands of classified documents on her emails that was an open email. Did she get prosecuted? No, she's a Democrat. She's a politician. What did they say? The head of the FBI says no reasonable person would prosecute this case. Oh, really? You try to screw the government the way she did. Take your phone, take all the evidence and smash it with a hammer, bleach it, set it on fire, and see if you don't get prosecuted. I mean, when are you people going to get sick of getting shit on? I've been up to here for many years. That's why we talk all the time, because I'm sick of it. When are you people going to get tired of it? When Paul comes out now and says, we're deep in a hole, I'm going to threaten to lay off police, fire. I'm not going to lay off any of the clowns I put on with opera money, though. But we need all this money. And why did you spend all this money? They're going to try to kick the can down the road. Diamond's coming, Durfee's coming, all these jobs are coming, the opera money's going. Fez bye-bye for the opera money. But nobody cares. They just violate the law routinely. You know, what's next? I don't know if you people saw the video because mainstream media doesn't like to cover stuff like this, but I did. Of a 15-year-old, I believe. I may be wrong with the age, but I think he was 15 or 16. Being beat to death at his school in Nevada by 15 assailants. We know there have been numerous fights at Durfee and other schools. We had videos of these fights. But how much have we known? Were those fights ever discussed at the school committee? Not to my knowledge. Has those videos ever released by the school committee? Was there any discussion on them? Were they shown at a meeting? No. Cover up Coogan and his crew. And we elected another guy from the cover up. He's back like a bad penny. Another cover up artist to help Mimi, who never left, which is staggering to my psyche that woman got reelected after what they did with Malone. Because when 14,000 people run this city, they got enough people that they did favors to and gave jobs to get elected. People have got to vote. But I mean, this city this is probably the most corrupt administration I have ever seen. And that's saying something. I've been around a very long time. I've seen a lot of administrations. But I mean, these people just don't tell you anything. They don't tell you anything about anything. Whether it's school department, city department, no matter what's going on. And we all know it because, look, we have friends. We know that allegedly some city councilors got special consideration from Mr. Perry.
And Mr. Pacheco.
And Mr. Pacheco. But what do they get from it? Well, he gets a $65,000 severance pay, and now they still won't release the details because, you know, as long as they don't see it in front of them, these reality deniers will say, well, I think he's a pretty good guy, you know. I mean, yeah, look, he's a nice guy. You know, doesn't he always say, don't you want to go to heaven? I guess you got some, I hope you went to confession after you jumped out of your car and screamed at some poor woman and told people to go jump in a river. But I don't know, maybe that's a venial sin or it's not a mortal sin. I don't know. But I'll tell you one thing. This is outrageous. Here's a guy that's got 3 terms now, who ran on transparency, and he's been the least transparent mayor in the history of this city, possibly in the history of mayors in the United States. Back to you, CJ.
Well, it's funny that you should say that. As you remember, 3 is a magic number. Okay? In this city, 3 is a magic number. Will Flanagan recalled when? 3rd term. Okay? It all happens in 3s. And maybe in this 3rd term, Paul will be taken out in handcuffs. Maybe he'll be recalled. Maybe he'll decide to resign because he doesn't want the hate to follow him. I don't know. But it's going to be interesting to see what's going to happen, especially what's going to happen with you, the taxpayer, because this is the year that the lottery ticket is gone. Poof. Gone. Did anyone see what Providence did with their ARPA money? They took $20 million away from a beautification project and put it into affordable housing units. What did Paul do? He decided to take the money and put on fancy lights and benches along Route 79 because he didn't like the ones that the state was going to put in. Don't you want affordable housing? I know that I want to see it. I want to see people get affordable housing. I want to see people taken off the street. Somebody came up with a good idea, and I was reading through it the other day, and I actually followed to a story that did it. They talk about tiny houses, and they set them up in a property as a little community, and they put in a central building for showers, laundry, and all of that. The tiny houses have bathrooms and kitchens, so that people can have their privacy and live all right. Um, and people have used ARPA money to build these little communities. For what? To take the homeless off the streets. Did anyone see what San Francisco looked like when the premier of China was here and the president was here and they went to San Francisco? They cleaned up the place. Yeah, and we always clean up the place when a guest is coming. You do it at home. You clean up the place. But who paid for that cleanup? The taxpayer. Who pays for it all the time? The taxpayer. We need better. And we need to know where all our money is going. Not just a few pennies here and there, but all the money. And that's why I'm grateful that the voters re-elected Michelle Dion. Because with Michelle Dion being re-elected, we know that there's going to be accountability. Even though they try to shut her down, even though they ignore her, she makes it public, and people know it. And that's what happens.
Well, you're right, CJ, and let me tell you something. You talk about housing and stuff, so I'm going to get into this a little bit. I actually saw a very, very, very enlightening discussion about an issue with an economist who was talking about how this massive inflation and this downturn and things has been affecting people. You see, the interest rates being driven up. He said that because of the interest rates and because of the price in housing, you need to make minimum $120,000 a year to get even a starter house. And he said, and most people can't afford that because the median income nationwide is like $81,000. So he said, what does that create? It creates a whole cadre of young people who can't ever realize the American dream and buy a home, but it also creates renters. These people can't buy a house, so they have to rent. And now the rents are outrageous, and they're paying 40% of their annual income to pay their rent. It means they're never ever going to be able to buy a house because they can't put money away. This is because they don't give a shit about regular people. And that was proven in what you just talked about. San Francisco. They let people defecate on the streets, urinate on the streets, shoot up on the streets. Now, for years in San Francisco, they turned that once beautiful city into an absolute crap hole. And what did they do about it? Nothing. Zero. London Breeze was on the Golden Gate Bridge, letting the breeze blow into her hair. He didn't care. Let them shoot up. Give them needles. Just ignore them. That's why San Francisco lost like a third of its population. But when Z comes, when the richies come and the world leaders that they want to make money from, oh, they got people in class 1 exposure suits cleaning everything. You could eat off the sidewalks. They still don't. I think somebody said, allegedly, but they did say it on a news outlet, that they moved them all to Oakland across the bay from San Francisco. They just shoveled them out, cleaned up the place, and then they let G come in and see what a beautiful city San Francisco is. And now that they're gone, you really think they're gonna do anything about keeping it that way?
Martha's Vineyard all over again.
Martha's Vineyard, oh yeah, get them out. It's like Newton. Remember what we talked about
Yeah.
Newton? Newton told him right now, he told the MBTA, hey, stick it where the sun don't shine. And that has nothing to do with what sex they are, in case somebody's watching here that wants to accuse us of anything. Because it's just stick it where the sun doesn't shine. They told him, Newton's rich. They can do that. They can afford to lose some state aid by not abiding by. And they booted out. They went to the polls and they booted out a bunch of city councilors. One of them a 7-term incumbent. Because they wanted to bring in not poor people. They're not bringing in illegals. They're not bringing in welfare. They were going to build market rate housing. They don't even want market rate housing in Newton. They're too rich. The average price of a home in Newton, I think, is $1.4 million. The average income's $165,000 for a household. These people don't like regular people. They forget about the people with problems, the poor, the drug addicted. They just don't like us. That's the reality. And they show it every once in a while. They pretend to be nice and like us. But when you get near them, it's not in my backyard, pal. Get this out of here. And Newton basically told them, you're not doing this. You're not doing this. We determine our community and how we develop it. And I went down today, yesterday actually. I felt like having a little ice cream after I took the dog for a walk. And I went down to that frozen yogurt place that's down near Almax, in the same plaza as Almax, and that they're going to close. And I think I counted 16 businesses that are going to be displaced when they build this edifice to their greed, this monument to them. And I know they got an attorney, and I hope they fight it, and I hope the people say no. I hope they fight this thing, because this again is a symptom. And you talked about how they just don't want to release anything, they want to do anything, but the reason is, if we ever found out, they would be voted out. But they're going to get voted out anyway, because once this hits the wall, and we have to pay for all these bills we've been making for years, we just don't have the means to do it, and it's a travesty. But they've destroyed what's left of this city, and and the MBTA again, like I said, they just think you got Joe Biden's brain. Something, because you could convince him of anything. He can't find his way off a stage. But they're going to convince you that the MBTA is going to be fixing everything in Fall River. It's the biggest mess in the country. The worst transit authority in the country. Like I said, they're just $24.5 billion more than they already are. We're talking over $100 billion to fix it. It's going to be, it's been bankrupt for years. They will cut services, increase prices, and that line, if it does come down here, will never last down here, and the prices will price itself out of the market, and it's not going to fix a damn thing. But they got you convinced everything's going to fix things in Fall River. The only thing that will fix Fall River is when we realize that we have to first fix our own community, get our people back to work, and let this city become what it always was, a blue-collar community with people who have paychecks and can support a blue-collar city. With that, back to you, CJ.
We've said this over and over again. Fall River made its bones by being a blue-collar city. Okay? For centuries, we've been a blue-collar city. Okay? We're the city that had the most textile mills in the country. That's how we got the name Spindle City. And we were always able to keep our people employed. And when they were employed, what made it? Small businesses. Okay? You used to be able to go up Pleasant Street and go to the furniture store, buy a new couch or a new armchair, and put it on credit and pay every week when you got your paycheck. Because people were worth their word. Today, that's not the way it is. You got to get credit reports and everything else on people. But Fall River's not going to make it with market rate housing. And let's be real. The T is $24.5 billion with a B, $billion in the hole. Okay? Just on repairs. That doesn't include their debt. That's just on repairs. And I saw the T tracks in Plymouth that pulled out of the T system, where already it's overgrown and there are roots from trees coming up through the tracks. Imagine if they decide to bring the commuter rail back to Plymouth, how much that's going to cost us. Just like it costs us here in Fall River. This weekend they had a disaster drill about the commuter rail in New Bedford. I know I was invited to take part in that and I decided against it, but this is what's going to happen. Okay? We won't learn until something major happens, and that's the problem. We won't learn until something major happens. And at some point, we will learn, and then it will be too late. Well, I want to thank you all for watching, and remember, stay safe, stay angry, and hold your politicians accountable. We'll see you on Wednesday. Have a great day.